Okay. I noticed that we are streaming. So, Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and very distinguished panelists. Uh, Good morning in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Hague, and all other places in the Netherlands. And good afternoon for every one of us in Dhaka and elsewhere. Let me welcome to everyone to this third and final in the set of three webinars that Embassy of Bangladesh together with Lariv International in Amsterdam and Light Castle Partners in Dhaka have been organizing. And some of you who may be with us right now in the participants list, you are familiar with the context as to how and where we have come, but many who are particularly coming for this session, let me give you a very quick context. The whole idea came up this summer when all of us were locked down. Perhaps this was one of the gifts of COVID that our idling brain got sparked up. I had initial conversation with Zahid in Dhaka. We realized that in case of Bangladesh and Netherlands, our relationship, engagements, and the potential perhaps are not mapped, particularly the economic engagements. Thus began our conversation. And at some point of time, he said that we have our partners in Amsterdam, and why not eventually we have, apart from the study, we also have a kind of investment summit. Thus came the idea. We walked along together. After 7 or 8 months of journey, we are here today in this particular webinar. So when we were looking at having specific, sector-specific webinars or investment conversation, we realized that water and maritime eminently features, and for all right reasons, as one of the focus areas. Here is an area which is so familiar to Bangladesh, and in the distinguished panel, we have a very balanced mix of expertise, experience, and wisdom to look at the existing ground that we have covered, as also the potential that remains to be tapped. I must underline that this is an investment or business summit, so it's not a typical business summit where we simply harp on the platitudes, but essentially premised on business principles or economic principles, looking at the potential Dutch innovators, SMEs, entrepreneurs, not the big ones, what kind of thing we can also signal with all four of you together, not simply the two gentlemen joining from Bangladesh. What can we really signal to all of our friends on the Dutch side, so that they really can understand that simply water and maritime sector collaboration is not about dredging, is not about building polders in embankments or making dredges, but it's much beyond. So two things I would underline, and then I'll pass on to Matthias. One is that the participants who are already registered, sort of hooked in, please use your chat box. And if you have any specific question to direct to the presenters or to the panelists, please put in there very specifically, briefly. We'll pick up from there, the ones we find cogent. As also, if you have any specific business proposition to make, any business idea to make, any specific inquiry to make, please also put in there. Not only in course of the 1.5 hour right now, but also beyond this, we will carry those forward, we'll mull over. And please note that this is simply not a one-off conversation. We are beginning a process, and we are so much encouraged following yesterday's two webinars. Many have come back to us and said that this should mark the beginning of a process where we can then take one-on-one eventually in the years to come and months to come. I must also underline that in this endeavor, as I reiterated yesterday, we're also joined by a fabulous range of actors from the Dutch side. That's why you'd see in the e-flyer, both alongside Bangladesh government logo, the Dutch government logo is flashing imminently. As much as my good friend Ambassador Harry and his embassy in Dhaka is with us, but at the same time, very important key players in Netherlands like RVO, the enterprise agency, as also FMO Bank, POOM, NAFIC, who brings knowledge, they're also on board. So that makes it a very interesting coalition, as also many of the chambers and industry associations in Bangladesh who have expressed interest, they have also joined. So it's a near equal conversation where both sides of the chessboard is a metaphor, sorry, are here on board. So without further ado, Matthias, please, it's your shot.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this introduction. For today, as already mentioned, we will shortly listen to a video message of the Netherlands ambassador in Dhaka. And following, my colleague Zahed will share some views on the developments opportunities in the water and maritime industry in Bangladesh. Furthermore, we have an interesting panel from Bangladesh and the Netherlands with all experts in their respective fields in water and maritime. Allow me to shortly introduce them. We have Mr. Alam, who is the Secretary for Marine Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. Thank you for joining today. We have Mr. Saiful Islam, who's the chairman of Western Marine Shipyards, one of the largest shipbuilding companies in Bangladesh. Thank you for joining. We have Mr. Albert Hoek, representing Broekman Logistics, and we have Mr. Erwin Rietman on behalf of Nijhuis Industries, responsible for sales in Asia.
Yes, good afternoon.
We will give the floor to these gentlemen later on. But first of all, I think we would like to share a video message from the Embassy of the Netherlands in Dhaka. Zahed, can we start the video, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the first ever virtual Netherlands-Bangladesh Investment Summit. Bangladesh wants to do business with the Netherlands. The Netherlands wants to do business with Bangladesh. Please allow me first to thank Ambassador Riyaz Hamidullah. From the moment he started as the Bangladesh ambassador in The Hague, only last summer, he has hit the ground running. And not at a leisurely pace, I should say, but really with a sprint. He and his team have worked tirelessly to make this summit a success. And I am very grateful for that. I am grateful because of my warm personal relation with Ambassador Hamidullah, but also because we share a professional goal. I think it's rather unique in the diplomatic world where so often priorities are roughly the same, but do not always align for the full 100%. But in this case, it does. We both want to stimulate business, trade and investments between the Netherlands and Bangladesh. Ambassador Hamidullah does his work primarily in The Hague, while I do mine primarily in Dhaka. So two sides of the same coin. Of course, the good relations between the Netherlands and Bangladesh are not new. We have stood shoulder to shoulder with Bangladesh for the past 50 years. Bangladesh has come a long way since its independence towards a hunger-free, poverty-free and deprivation-free Bangladesh. And here we are today, Delta countries at the dawn of a new era. An era in which Bangladesh graduates from the least developed countries group, an era of mutual investment and trade, an era of opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, because opportunity is why you're here today, with impressive GDP growth figures, a rapidly expanding middle class, and a strategic position in Asia, Bangladesh is open for business, and the world is just only now realizing this. Doing business in Bangladesh is not without its challenges, but pioneering is never easy. During my time in Bangladesh, I have found out that the Bangladeshi people have an incredible sense for business. They're always willing to think with you. I've also found out that you will experience tremendous hospitality as an essential part of any relationship in Bangladesh. But you don't have to take only my word for it. There's a great lineup of experienced speakers today who will gladly inform you and answer your questions. Some of them represent Dutch companies that have been active in Bangladesh for decades. I hope they will motivate you to consider Bangladesh as a next Asian tiger, the Bengal tiger. Because I believe that is what Bangladesh needs, better branding. Too often, Bangladesh is considered to be disaster-prone, heavily populated and poor. Those challenges do exist, But one of my key messages to the government of Bangladesh is to promote the opportunities and the positive sides of this country. And again, Ambassador Hamidullah understands that better than anyone else. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're also able to see it too, then the potential advantages of being an early mover could reap serious rewards. In the follow-up to this summit, we will continue to work on increasing the available market intelligence for several sectors, and we will explore the opportunities for mutual visits and trade missions. Feel free to reach out to my team with any and all questions, and they will be happy to assist you anytime. While this summit is virtual, the majority of the participants are based in the Netherlands. I hope that once the COVID-19 situation allows for travel again, that I will be able to welcome you in Dhaka in 2021. Together with Ambassador Hamidullah and his team, my team and I stand at your disposal. I wish you a productive and inspiring meeting today, and we hope to see you back here all in Dhaka. Thank you.
Excellent. So this was the video message on behalf of the Netherlands Embassy in Dhaka. Now I would like to give the floor to my colleague Sahed on behalf of Lightcastle Partners, who prepared a presentation about the water and maritime industry in Bangladesh, followed by the panel discussion. Sahed, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matthias. Hello, everyone. Good morning to our friends from the Netherlands and also from Bangladesh. I'll briefly explain the salient strengths of the Bangladesh economy at the forefront, and I'll follow this up with some coverage of the water and maritime sector and the potential opportunities for the Dutch investors. If I could go to the next slide. Yeah. So if you look at the GDP growth performance, you'll see that the economy has done quite well over the last 10 years. The GDP growth, average GDP growth has been around 6%, which is quite impressive given the fact that the region in general has experienced a lot of turbulence in terms of growth, particularly our larger neighbor. Even during the pandemic, our economy has kept on growing. According to the IMF estimates, our economy would grow by around 4% in 2020 and rebounding to around close to 8% in 2022, which is an impressive feat. Alongside, our GDP per capita has also experienced a significant jump over the last 5 years, which has been driven by some factors, which I will be discussing in the subsequent slides. In terms of our GDP per capita, our GDP per capita has crossed $1,900, which for the first time has moved beyond that of India. And it's expected that our per capita GDP will remain above that of India in the future, which is a tremendous feat, given the fact that our per capita GDP was 40% lower than that of India even 5 years back. And alongside, given the fact that we have moved beyond the threshold of $1,800, we have actually moved beyond the threshold of the LDC countries, and we are hopeful that the country would be able to graduate as a middle-income nation within the year 2024. If I move to the next slide, what are the factors which are pushing this economy forward? First thing is the large and a young population, 170 million population in a very small area, the size of Iowa in the US. And we also have a very large working population. 56% of the population falls within the working class, 27 years of median age. And our population is quite inclusive in our workforce. If you look at female labor force participation, you'll see that 36% of our females are actually involved in the job market, where the figure is 21% and 22% for India and Pakistan respectively, which is significantly higher. And alongside, since we are already benefiting from the demographic dividend, we are also experiencing the benefits of density dividend, because around close to 1,200 people are ensconced in an area of 1 square kilometer, and which gives tremendous benefits for FMCG and different type of companies which are looking to target the Bangladesh market. if you look at the MSC, the middle and affluent class population, we'll see that the MSC population has been growing at a significant pace. And this has been egged by employment opportunities across the body. This has been egged by the RMG sector, remittances from abroad. And according to the BCG study conducted in 2015, the estimated MSC, the middle and affluent class population, would be 34 million in the year 2025, which is probably even larger than population of many of the countries. In terms of the FX reserve, our FX reserve is currently at an all-time high of 41 billion, which can easily cover our import payment for 8 months. And our inflation rate is stable, and our debt to GDP ratio is 36%, which is significantly lower than our peer economies in general. In terms of our strong relationship, since Netherlands recognized Bangladesh as an independent country in early 1972, our relationship has been going strong. Not only have we received different kind of support from the government, but there has been significant investments from the Netherlands, particularly driven by FMO. In 2020, ACI Motors received around $13 million. Omera received an investment of around 8 million euro. And we also have received investment from large blue chip companies like GP. FMO is one of the investors of Grameenphone, which is Bangladesh's largest telecom service provider. Alongside Dutch Bangla Bank FMO is one of the founders of Dutch Bangla Bank. In terms of our FDI contribution, Netherlands contributes roughly around 21%. It contributed around 21% in our 2018-19 figures. In terms of our export, apparel is one of our main exportable items. In 2019-20, we have successfully exported 685 million euro worth of apparel product, followed by footwear and also fish and frozen food in general. Having said that, we believe that there is a lot of scope for improvement in terms of attracting FDIs. Our FDI contribution is just 3% when you compare it with the overall investments. And we genuinely believe that there is a lot of scope for improvement, and the government has been trying its level best in order to improve the ease of doing business ranking. And we are seeing that in terms of higher FDIs when you compare with the previous years. Now I'll just briefly cover some of the key factors which we need to take into account while looking or analyzing the water and maritime sector. Firstly, I would like to share a bit more details about our blue economy. As we know, we have a huge ocean. So since we have ports, and here we believe that according to the research as well, there is potential resources, minerals, which includes potential offshore gas and extraction of potential oil. And we also feel that the research shows that there is significant opportunities for exploiting the marine resources in general. However, there are some opportunities for collaboration, which includes marine fisheries, natural resource extraction, and also maritime transport, where Netherlands can actually support us. For example, for fisheries, we don't have deep sea trawlers, and there is a good opportunity for the Netherlands to supply us with these deep sea trawlers. In terms of water management, we believe that, or according to the research done by the World Bank Group, the demand for industrial water would increase by 109%. Demand for domestic water would increase by 75%, which shows that there is a significant demand for drinkable water. There's a significant demand for equipments related to water management in general. As we know, the RMG sector contributes a significant portion of our country's GDP, roughly around 8%. And the RMG and the textile sectors, apart from the leather sector, they contribute significantly to the country's growth. And there is a lot of emissions happening, water pollution occurring from these sectors. And there is a lot of opportunities in terms of technology transfer, particularly in terms of ETPs and other areas, and also more energy efficient, water efficient technologies, which can be transferred from the Netherlands. And there are significant opportunities there. In terms of the opportunities, we have done this mapping for the Netherlands Dutch embassy in Dhaka. The ETP market, the estimated ETP market is roughly around 119 million euro. The market for ETPs is around 119 million. There are close to 4,500 garments in Bangladesh. So there is a lot of opportunities for effluent treatment plants. Apart from that, due to urbanization, there will be higher demand for water treatment in general. As we know, 38% of our population lives in the urban area, and the urbanization rate will move closer to 50%. So there'll be a larger demand for urban water supply. And as the ambassador has already mentioned, there is a demand for dredging, land reclamation, which will keep on being a sort of like an important part. Apart from that, water treatment facilities in the economic zones, there are close to 100 economic zones which are being planned over the last of the next 10 to 15 years, and there is tremendous opportunities for setting up the ETPs in these economic zones. These are some of our success stories for Dutch players. Royal IHC and Damon have been operating since the 70s, and there is a lot of opportunities for further collaboration in the coming years. In terms of shipbuilding, although our current market or the size of our export is not that high, but there is a lot of opportunities for growth and collaboration with Dutch counterparts. Last year, in 2017-18, Bangladesh exported roughly around 26 million euro worth of ships, and our specialization is in terms of smaller ships with lower deadweight tons. And there is a lot of opportunities for the growth in this sector. And some of these opportunities include development of shipbuilding technologies, upgradation of shipyards, supply parts, components, and fittings, which would be required for building ships. And we believe that there is a lot of opportunities for collaboration since the Dutch have significant expertise in shipbuilding. I'll stop here and hand over the floor to Matthias. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Zahed. So as mentioned by yourself, both Bangladesh and Netherlands are both water-rich nations located in delta regions and having significant experience with coastal protection, inland waterways, etc. But we also, both countries host substantial ports. For example, Chittagong and the port of Rotterdam. A number of the panelists today, they are based with their organizations in these centra, which also host various related industries, such as storage, processing, distribution, shipbuilding. So we are keen to learn more about the views and experiences of the panelists with doing business in Bangladesh, but also where they see opportunities for further collaboration between the Dutch and Bangladeshi organizations. Let me firstly start with a few questions I have for Mr. Erwin Rietman on behalf of Nijhuis Industries. Erwin, first of all, if you would be so kind to shortly elaborate about the activities of your organization and then maybe specifically on what you are doing in Bangladesh. You're still mute, Erwin.
Yeah, I will shortly introduce our company. We are Nijhuis Sour Industries nowadays. We design, manufacture and supply complete wastewater treatment plants all over the globe for all kinds of applications. That can be from, let's say, intake water to wastewater. If we look specifically to Bangladesh, we have supplied some wastewater treatment plants, mainly for the textile industry. Where we treat effluent up to, let's say, discharge limits, and we can even go up to reuse limits indeed. And we are still in discussion with a lot of potential clients at the moment in moving that direction at the moment. So that's in a nutshell what Nijhuis is doing indeed.
Yeah, and specifically in Bangladesh, how long have you been active in this?
We are now roughly about 3 years getting more active in Bangladesh. We have a partner now in Bangladesh since a couple of years indeed. And that's working properly, I must say. And Bangladesh is quite an important market for us because we see there are quite some economic growth, as also indicated earlier about roughly 80% of all wastewater at the moment is treated in Bangladesh. So there's a lot of opportunity for companies like ours to deal with that need. And of course, there is the Delta Plan, which gives priority as Dutch and Bangladesh government, where we could play a major role in. But yeah, textile, food and beverage, a little bit oil and gas industry, if applicable, is a focus area for us in the coming period.
Yeah, so active since roughly 3 years, and could you elaborate a bit on your decisions to become active in this market and your first experience so far?
Yeah, the first experience is mainly in the textile, because there's a very big market, of course, in Bangladesh. Lots of manufacturers and suppliers over there. So that's really our focus over there at the moment, indeed. And we, as a European company, of course, are looking for, let's say, more the middle and the high-end companies, which have considerable amount of wastewater to deal with. Where we can make the difference, indeed, and of course you have always have to deal with, let's say, local players and regional players, but we are looking together with our partner Flowwater for the niches in the market, indeed, and we succeed step by step. Of course, now we are a little bit kicked back due to the COVID situation. So this year was, of course, quite slow in moving around. But we have big expectations for picking up in 2021, indeed. And yeah, of course, we're happy to travel once it's again safe to Bangladesh, to meet our potential clients and to discuss about the upcoming projects.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to travel and especially going to Bangladesh in the next year.
Yes.
Maybe final question before I move on to the next speaker. Your company is active in various markets in Asia. What differentiates Bangladesh, for example, from other countries in South and Southeast Asia?
Yeah, the way of working is a little bit different, I must say. And we are now also moving ahead within Bangladesh. We have signed some time ago, for instance, an MOU for developing economic zone. And what also indicated by a previous speaker, we see a lot of developments in economic zones. So together with these kind of project developers and our local partner, we initiating this kind of things, and together with them, we develop a master plan for it, also regarding water and wastewater as well, and playing their role from the beginning, indeed. And on that way, as a European technology provider and solution provider, we can play a major role in that and try to involve in that more and more, indeed. And that's interesting development compared to other countries, I must say, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everyone. We'll come back to you later on.
Yes.
I would like to underline to the participants, you have the opportunity to raise your questions into the chat box, and we will try to address these to the panelists. I would like to give the floor shortly to Mr. Alam. Again, he's representing the Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs and responsible Secretary for Marine Affairs. Mr. Alam, thank you for making time available. Could you elaborate a bit from your perspective on behalf of the ministry on collaborations between Bangladesh and the Netherlands in recent years?
Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me the floor. At the onset, let me also thank Your Excellency in Dhaka and also our ambassador in Netherlands for arranging this webinar today. We are really fortunate to have some of the investors here as well. Let me at the start thank the government of Netherlands. You see, we have just signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation on the Scoping Study for an effective and efficient use of selected high potential marine genetic resources from the Bay of Bengal. Just in last October, a month back, we have signed this MOU, and that's a non-traditional area. Bangladesh, we have got about 81% of our land area at sea, but we really don't know what we have in the sea other than the fish. So we are trying to carry out a mapping of the species we have in the Bay of Bengal, especially on the plants and the some sort of fish and other shellfish and other types of fishes, if they have some qualities of either cosmetics or medicine or nutraceuticals on all those. So this is the first time a study will be carried out by one of your scientists, sir, Mr. Bhagant, who is from Netherlands, and he's also a very close friend of mine, and the Netherlands government is funding it. You are giving us almost $260,000 for this project. So we have taken this project because as part of the blue economy, what we have seen, you have heard rightly from the presentation before, that we also don't have much of the deep sea fishing. Our fishing is limited to only 60 kilometers from our coastline. And that's a very, very small area. We have about 600 kilometer long areas of the EEZ, exclusive economic zone. But really, we don't have any fishing because of traditionally, our fishing boats are, very small type of wooden boats. And then we have 250 plus trawlers, steel body trawlers, which also goes around, but less than 200 meter depth. So there's an area where fish is already there, but then we really can't probably catch them or export them or even use them for our own use because of the lack of technology, ship, whatever you may call it. We also don't have much of the seafood processing center. So what is an idea we have been thinking that if we can, because we have a lot of good aquaculture practices on land. We are fourth in the world as far as the production of fish is concerned. But as you know, that the world population is increasing by billions. By 2030, we will have 7.5 billion people. So for this extra billion of people, we will need much more fish as in the form of nutrition. So the world will require almost 100 million tons of additional fish to come from somewhere. I'm sure, as you know, that it's not coming from the capture fishery, so it will have to come from the culture fishery. Right now, the world produces about 179 million metric tons of fish, which are 50-50, 50% capture, 50% culture. So in Bangladesh, we are having shortage of groundwater in the culture of fish on the land. So if we can move out to open sea, that would give us an opportunity area, to think of an alternative to the garments industry. Because if the next 5 to 10 years, if we can, culture around 1 million tons of fish with the latest case technology, polyculture, whatever you may call it, we can earn almost 25,000 crores of taka, which can be a good alternative to our small basket of export really we have. So that's the area we're also looking for. As you know, sir, just for information, Norway started aquaculture in the open sea in 2008, and they are producing salmon, and they are the #1 in the world now. So we would like to have these avenues. Along with that, the seaweeds is a big market for seaweeds. Indonesia, Peru, Bangkok, and China, they are utilizing this area. We have around plus 200 types of seaweeds in our coastal waters. So if we can extract the seaweeds, what is going to happen, we have 6 months of fishing ban for jatka, that is fry of hilcha, less than 25 centimeter. That starts in January and continues till June every year. And also in June, July, we have 65 days complete fishing ban. So what we can do, we can give an alternative livelihood to our fishermen, because the seaweed is a 4 months crop and it fetches good money. But right now we really do not have the technology and also the human resource what we need. So there is an area where, we can probably cooperate on that. In addition, we also have the hilcha shad, that also can be, or sivas we have in our waters, that mullet we have in our waters. So that can also be cultured, in addition to shrimp and other thing, whatever we have. And I can tell you, we really don't have enough billets, opportunities for our seafarers. We have a number of academies who produces world-class seafarers in Bangladesh. But as you all know, sir, that 46% of the 150,000 ships operating in the whole world are manned by Filipino crews. Even probably Netherlands has an academy also. So we can offer some of our academies to be developed as the Marine Academy of the Netherlands fishing, shipping companies who can invest here or come here and produce and get the seafarers up to their quality, and we can export them. And that would be a very good area for Bangladesh, because professionally we have proved to be a good sailor, given the good education and everything. And also, we have this problem of plastic pollution and other pollution like from our shipbreaking industry. Yes, our shipbreaking industry contributes around, we produce almost 2 million metric tons of steel every year from the shipbreaking industry. So it is giving us economically a lot of support to the total complete requirement of the steel we import from abroad. But that is also polluting, but we need the technology again and the good human resource quality probably to bring in either from Netherlands or from another country or from any other company, so that we can actually comply with the Hong Kong Convention and also supply the amount of steel we need for the benefit of the people of Bangladesh. We have also established a Bangladesh Oceanography Research Institute, which is a very newly one, around 3 years old. There also we have a lot of scope for cooperation as far as scientists, as far as researchers are concerned. And we would welcome, because last year we had this Norwegian ship, Dr. Nansen Fitzroy, which came into Bangladesh and carried out stock assessment of fish in the waters of the Bay of Bengal. It was sponsored by the FAO. We could carry out the assessment of the pelagic fish, but we have not been able to carry out any stock assessment survey of demersal fish. So the report is good. It says that our stock is almost like 1979. Let me stop here and let's see if there are questions. I can come back to you so that you have an opportunity to listen to others. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Alam, and we'll definitely come back to you. I know that a number of interesting opportunities you highlight has certainly summarizing, I think, within the field of aquaculture, marine culture, you addressed, also related to ports, environmental protection, related to solutions for example, for plastic reduction. We'll come back to you later on, maybe also with questions from the participants. Maybe going to the next speaker, Mr. Albert Hoek, who's representing Brookman Logistics. Albert, thank you for joining this morning. First of all, can you elaborate shortly on the activities of Brookman and especially your experiences till date in Bangladesh?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Brookman Logistics is a transportation shipping organization that transports goods by water, ocean, by air and by land worldwide to or from our various locations where we are based. With regards to Bangladesh, I think we should recognize there are 3 components in the logistics industry: transportation by air, by ocean, river, and over land. And all 3 involve packing and unpacking of the products, storage, distribution, via warehouses, and customs formalities. Bangladesh has international ports and airports in operation, and depending on which part you are in Bangladesh, an infrastructure is in place. As in any country, there is always room for improvement for the infrastructure. When we zoom in on the water transportation, or better called shipping industry in Bangladesh, it needs to be recognized that whereas Chittagong is the main port of Bangladesh, the international shipping world operates not directly with container vessels to the ports in Bangladesh. The cargo is transshipped from the big vessels to so-called feeder vessels via Singapore, Port Kelang, Chennai, or Sri Lanka. And there is nothing wrong with that, provided those feeder connections are reliable. That's the size of the market, and that's something to be recognized. Airport-wise, similar situation. International airports in Bangladesh, they fly to Kuala Lumpur or again Singapore or even Delhi, and from there they connect to the world. Infrastructure is in place, and the so-called supply chain in the industry is definitely there. We've been working for the past, 40 years with various companies transporting goods into Bangladesh or from Bangladesh by air and ocean, and the local expertise providing the global reach for the personal touch is something which works very well for us with partners in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Albert. Yeah.
Okay, maybe to carry on, if you look at the maritime industry of Bangladesh, I can call the so-called port development from the key sites that are erected to discharging, loading cargoes, and then onward transportation by road, rail, or river. The Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 is a very good analysis of steps to be taken. I think what is described is a combined of knowledge from the Netherlands, experience of 40, 50 years dealing with water, and again, bring that knowledge to Bangladesh. Lots of opportunities, lots of challenges, but I think a good example of a project which was recently started was the building of a multi-purpose and container terminal in the port of Matarbari, which is about 70 kilometers south of Chittagong. It's funded by Japanese, and it will result in a state-of-the-art modern terminal, not dealing with an old infrastructure, and from there one can distribute all over Bangladesh. I think those kind of initiatives are needed to let's say, upgrade the maritime industry of Bangladesh. But also locally, good progress was made. In 2018, the Bangladesh Maritime Act was concluded through the government. And what I read in that act, it's an excellent example of how changes are implemented, where basically one skips the processes that other countries have made over a longer period. Bangladesh jumps right into the modern Shipping Act regulations, and that's only encouraging. And I think the base is there for lots of opportunities for Dutch, but also international companies in Bangladesh. Dutch companies often have a relation with water. And I think if you look at the massive Delta Plan 2100, my suggestion would be there are a combination of consortium with a coordinator, local representative from Bangladesh, expertise from Holland, and in that combination, really progress can be made, whether it is from dredging, from, let's say, reclaiming land, turning that into agricultural areas. All those steps are described in the plan. And I think there we can combine the know-how and the expertise of the Dutch, who have been dealing with water for the past 1,000 years, into the modern world for Bangladesh.
Excellent, Albert. You mentioned a number of developments and opportunities. For example, the development of the Matarbari port, which I think is relevant next to Chittagong as leading port for Bangladesh. You named dredging, port development and logistics. Maybe about your personal experiences with doing business in Bangladesh. You surely mentioned that you are active with a local partner. Could you highlight maybe one or two anecdotes of doing business in Bangladesh and why this makes this market so unique?
Well, maybe it's something about the textile industry. I think it's about 35 years ago. I was first in Bangladesh, and my local partner took me to a factory where they were making all kind of shirts. And as a joke, they said, "Ah, sir, we have a shirt for you." So I took off my own shirt, put on the shirt from Bangladesh. But okay, I'm not the smallest in the world, so my size was quite bigger, but the shirt fitted. But the moment I raised my arms, the whole shirt came apart. And they said, "Oh, you're too big for our textiles." But that's something, as quicker as they were, before we left the premises, somebody was running to me with a new shirt of a bigger size, and immediately that fitted like a glove. It tells you something, let's say, the speed of adapting to changes and grabbing the opportunities, that still sticks very well in my memory. And that's something which, well, I share the story, I never forget. But I think that strength of being fast, being flexible, being creative on the spot, that tells you something that the local expertise in Bangladesh is great and very well catered for the international world.
Okay, that's an inspiring story, Albert. And what would you recommend for Dutch companies which consider to become active in Bangladesh? Which steps should they take?
I think the main thing is to go down in a down-to-earth way. The moment you think whatever works in Holland will work in Bangladesh, you're wrong. Make sure, let's say, you get a taste and a smell of how things work in Bangladesh. Talk to various people, and by instinct, you usually know, okay, this company or this partner, he knows what we are talking about, we understand him, and we can combine the strengths of two worlds. Working with a local partner is crucial. Don't think you can reinvent the wheel in Bangladesh. It has been there probably longer than in Holland, and work through partnership. And if you really feel I need to have something from myself there, you set up a representative office, 1 or 2 people from your own, but still work for the actual business with a local partner. Don't underestimate the intelligence and the work ethic of the people in Bangladesh. That's where often Europeans or Americans go wrong. They think they know it all and they know it better. And that is so wrong.
Okay, these are some wise recommendations. Thank you, Albert. I would like to give the floor now to Mr. Islam. You are the chairman of Western Marine Shipyard, as we understand, one of the largest shipbuilders in the country. Pleased to have you on board today. Would you be so kind to elaborate a bit on the activities of your organization?
Thank you for having me here. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to our embassy in The Hague, and also the embassy here, Netherlands embassy here in Dhaka, and I express my gratitude to both the ambassador and the organizer. Let me say something about my organization, that we are in the shipbuilding. We are one of the largest shipbuilders in Bangladesh. We have already exported the 52 ships around the globe, starting from small passenger ships, which we have. There is a Solus ship to New Zealand, down under. Then also we have sold that multi-purpose container vessel to Germany, and the Ro-Ro ferry to Denmark, and passenger ships to Pakistan, and bulk carrier each 8,000 ton to India. So that means that we have been building that means a different kind of ships, and that is all known as a small and medium-sized vessel. And we have supplied the Ro-Ro ferry to our Indian Waterways Authority, and also we have supplied the TAC 60 bullet pool to Chittagong Port Authority, and some specialized vessels such as dredger to Mongla Port Authority. This is the capacity that we are building, and we have started our exporting ocean-going ship since 2008. Until date, we are also exporting the ships, and also we are building this deep sea trawler. That is the activities that what we do. That means that's in the shipbuilding. And in the infrastructure project also, we are engaged in for building the bridge where the fabrication is concerned. We do the fabrication part from our side. So I would like to say particularly that whether the opportunities here in the waterways in Bangladesh, you must be knowing that that we have got 300 rivers, which is around 24,000 kilometers of river. Out of that, 8,000 kilometer of river is navigable during the monsoon time, but 3,500 is navigable during the winter time, what we say that during the dry season. So Bangladesh, you know that if we go see that the climate change, that means the global warming, Bangladesh's carbon emission is 152 out of 188 countries, and we contribute only 0.36% of the global emission. But unfortunately, Bangladesh is being badly affected for this global warming and the climate change. It is the 160th country among the 181 countries. So the reason I'm telling that, as I say, that inland waterways, there are a lot of opportunities coming up. And if you think about the carbon credit, that how we can encash that one. That means that the statistics say that the distance between Chittagong and Dhaka, which is the main hub for transportation of the goods, that in that hub, we see that if the transportation it takes place by inland waterways, that means someone has to pay 600 taka for ton, and 1200 taka for this if you transport it by train. But if you transport it by road, which is 6,000 taka, that means that if someone can transport by inland waterways, which is 1/10 of the cost of the road transportation, but unfortunately, the road transportation is almost 90% of the goods which is being transported from Chittagong to Dhaka. And the trading of the goods from Chittagong to Dhaka, if you consider our export and import, is almost 80% of our total transportation. So there is a great opportunity where I can see that if we invest something that on a bilateral basis, I can see that in the ocean-going ships, Dutch owners, they have a significant portion of ownership in the ocean-going ship. But in the inland waterways, there is an ample opportunity to be invested here. And then the question comes whether it is navigable or not navigable. During the dry season, it is around 2.5 meter or less than the restriction is not there. The government has taken up a big program to dredge out the river, but it's still the performance-based dredging that which can be taken up by the Dutch companies. They can make a contract with the Transport Authority to maintain the dredge, maintain the river, so that it has around the year. If it can maintain 4-meter draft around the year, then you can the investor, the World Bank has targeted about 2 billion in loan or grant to support its ambitious climate adoption plan. To support our adoption plan, there is a $2 billion. That means you can take advantage of the carbon credit. That is a good thing that we can think of it. And regarding the shipbuilding, what we feel that if there is a transfer of know-how, the equity can be in the form of money, but instead of that, if there is any transfer of know-how, that can be worked as an equity from the Dutch counterpart, what I can see down here. But Mr. Alom, he has given all the data about the blue economy, which I do not want to repeat. But still then I will go on the Delta Plan 2000. In this Delta Plan 2000, that what we see that there will be a reclamation of coastal area of 35,000 square kilometer. And there will be 24,000 kilometer river infrastructure development. That means a huge project will be coming. That means which the government has targeted in 2030. There will be an investment. The government has to invest in up to 2030 about $38 billion for this Delta Plan. So there is a good opportunities here. And I also, we have a dredging company down here. There are a lot of good dredging companies down here. The Netherlands, they have got big dredging companies which can do the technical the exchange of technical know-how. That can be a great help. At the same time, the partnering. I must appreciate that what Mr. Albert Hawke said, that selecting a counterpart, selecting a JV partner is very important, and at the same time, adaptation of the people are very fast. So apart from shipbuilding, which the Ambassador Hamidullah has said, His Excellency said that I work for a company which is known as Picard Bangladesh, that is we do hire and leather goods product. So when this company came here in Bangladesh in 1997, we had a workforce of only 60, you know. Now we have a workforce of around 2,000. And the retail price, I just give you that we sell the briefcase to the European market and also the Australian market. The retail prices sometimes it is higher than $2,000. So it talks about the quality. So there is a good opportunity. That means that we have got good workers. What Mr. Fahmid has Fahad has shown in his presentation, that 56% of our workforce, they are young workforce. There are good workforce down here, good entrepreneur here, good partners are there. But what you see down there in Netherlands, as Mr. Albert Hawke has said, that you have to go down to the bottom and see the heart of the people, that whether the ethical business is there. There is, of course, a ethical business is there. That is the reason that I give you the example that how my partner feels, that if you go to Germany and if you ask Mr. Picard that how you have made your fortune in Bangladesh, starting with 60 people, now you have 2,000 people, and which is a multi-million-dollar company here in Bangladesh. So this is what is Bangladesh. Bangladesh has got, and the country, already the presentation given by Mr. Fahad, that around 7% GDP growth over the last 6 years, and even during the pandemic, we had been making a growth of 4%. But still, we do believe that this, as we say, that 21st century is the century for the Asian. And you can see that the business is also shifting from Southeast Asia to South Asia. So shipbuilding is a sector where we see that the Dutch, they are the master of this shipbuilding. We can emphasize on the specialized ships such as the tugs, that means the trawler, that means the deep sea trawler, which we are also building for the Norwegians, which are quite big. They're having a capacity of 2,500 tons. That is deep sea trawling. And there are so many untapped, especially in the shipbuilding. That means that if we can do some transfer of know-how, the infrastructure is there. That is the infrastructure within the shipyard, but as a whole, the government has taken up a lot of infrastructure projects, which did not take place in the previously, but now we have got around $57 billion of infrastructure project. So the Mathabari port, where there are a lot of things are going on, where the draft will be 16.5 meter, where the 8,000 TEUs carry and can come straightway to Mathabari port. In that case, we won't be needing this feeder service anymore once the Mathabari port is in operation. So as time is limited, there are a lot of opportunities are coming up, but during this coronavirus, this pandemic, what we say that the whole world is saying one thing, that the dependency from single country has to be shifted. And it is the question that how Western world is shifting the dependency, whether they are going into the Southeast Asia or they are going into South Asia, it is up to them. But this country, well, we have the potential, we have the workforce, but still I would say that the weakness is there, the transfer of know-how, the smart business, the efficiency, the productivity. Still we are losing money on that, where I can see that Dutch entrepreneur can come to Bangladesh, as the ambassador has invited. Once this pandemic is over, then you can come and see. Seeing is believing. See that what type of ships that we have built, what type of business that we are in, that how we are entering into the world business with world-class product that you can see. So as the time is really constant, I would not extend myself anymore, but I express once again my gratitude to the organizer for this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Islam, for your extensive words on the opportunities. I noted a few. You mentioned, if I may summarize, inland waterways as a clear opportunity, dredging, sustainability, the opportunity for Dutch companies in terms of technical assistance in order to improve industries such as shipbuilding. What I shortly would like to have your views on. You mentioned that one of the key drivers of economic development in Bangladesh is the huge investments in infrastructure. Among others, the development of the Matabari port, which will be a second large port, deep sea port next to Chittagong, which is in the far southeast of the country. What will be what is the expected change, let's say within logistics in general, when the Matabari port will be operational?
The expected change, that our export to the Western world, that is mainly the ready-made garments, which the size of the ready-made garments is the second largest in the world. It is $34 billion. But unfortunately, the lead time is almost going to the port of Rotterdam. It takes almost 4 to 5 weeks, but it should not take more than 18 days. So most of the vessel, because I see that here some of the speakers, they are also from the logistic, that we are losing a lot of time, at least 3 weeks time for feeder operation. The feeder operation which gives feeds to the mother vessel. But if the Matabari port comes into operation, we can save at least 3 weeks time on that. So in that case, that we will have a lot of advantage on our competitors, such as China, Vietnam, and India. So that they have this opportunity because they have this deep sea port. But this deep sea port is no more a dream. I believe that within the 2024, it will be in operation, which will, the infrastructure is being done by the Japanese. But still, there are a lot of opportunities for the Dutch entrepreneur to come in. But as I say, that we can save at least 3 weeks time if we have this Matabari port in operation.
Okay, interesting. A few of the questions which are dropping in from the audience. Let's see. One question we have for Mr. Riemann from House Industries. We learned that you have a local partner which is named Flow Water, and you're furthermore working with FMO, one of the largest financial institutes from the Netherlands, where you actively try to play a role in wastewater treatment in special economic zones. Erwin, could you elaborate shortly what is your role and ambition with respect to being active in special economic zones in Bangladesh?
Yes, we can do. Yeah, it's basically to support this kind of company or investment companies to develop the plans that can be from initial how to scale up in the future. Making design for that, support that, also maybe looking for possible financing, of course engineering and also execution. And nowadays we also might be interested in operation and maintenance as well of these kind of plants. So we're covering basically from begin till the end this kind of developments. But okay, we just started with it last year, so it's still pretty new for us on such a scale. But we do have the capabilities of that. We're dealing that, and as you might have understood, we are part of Sauer nowadays, a big French company of 9,000 persons, which also do a lot in O&M and this kind of development. So it's quite a good fit for us. But it's a long-term investment from our side as well, indeed, and we are looking for the right partners to develop this kind of projects in different stages, indeed. And yeah, from Ananta, that's the first one which we just are picking up, basically. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. One more question coming from the audience for Albert from Brookman Logistics. Mr. Hoek, you're active in, let's say, in international shipping and distribution. Taking into consideration the huge number of rivers in Bangladesh and the opportunities for further development of inland waterways, what would be your recommendation from the perspective of Brookman Logistics to further improve inland transport with relation to the waterways?
Okay, thank you. I think first of all, you have to look at what I call the river infrastructure. How deep is the river? How many bows and things you are facing? And is there an air draft by bridges? Add on what we call the night navigation. So it's possible to operate, let's say, river ships on the river at night, because that way you save time. Those are base elements to look at river transportation. And then there are plenty of smaller, let's say, river ships available in Europe. Those can be, I think, purchased second-hand, or they can even be built in Bangladesh shipyards themselves. And then look for the critical point is how many tons you have to transport to make it economical viable. And then preferable, you look for two-way traffic, upriver, downriver. Those are bases you have to investigate. Not an in-depth market research, but very much common sense. Which factories are producing are located alongside the river, upriver, and what is the distribution downriver. If I think it takes a week of let's say 2-3 people working and making calls and knowing the local circumstances, then you have the base foundation information to, let's say, initiate inland river shipping. But it starts with make sure you know the infrastructure. How deep is the river? How long can the river ship be to be operated and still navigate over the river? Night navigation, and look for the market. What are the producing companies who are distributing import and export?
Can I add something on that?
Please go ahead, Mr. Lam.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just elaborate a little bit on whatever he has contributed. That we have a trade last year about $90 billion, both together, export and import together. And there were about 3,664 ships which carried our imports and carried back our export from the port of Chittagong, Paira and Mongla. But there is only one inland port near Dhaka, which is called Pangaon. Presently it is operating with only 10 ships that is carrying container from Chittagong to Dhaka, as Mr. Saiful has said. But we have the capacity here about 116,000 containers can be carried and put forth here. But right now we only operate, less than 35,000 because of number of ships. So to really relieve the road congestion and burning of much-needed fuel and the cost and pollution, we can very well, we can look for the alternative to carry the containers from Chittagong to Dhaka or from other ports to Dhaka through the river routes. As you will appreciate, that 76% of the containers originate from Asia. So Bangladesh will continue to play a big role in the near term and as well as in the long term container carrying capacities. So if this route can be developed, I would say that we would be saving a lot of money. Every year we are paying almost $5 billion as a freight charge for the ships which are carrying our cargo, So we need to develop these inland routes so that the dredging has already been discussed, but we don't have ships. There are only 10 ships right now operating for carrying the containers to and from Dhaka to Chittagong. Thank you, sir.
May I supplement something? As Mr. Albert Hoek has said that the volume, I will say that I was just going through the figure. If you see the volume, that means last year we had 110 billion passenger kilometers, and 18.6 billion tons kilometer in the transported the last year. That is the volume. And he has also said about the draft can be maintained up to the 3.5 meter. The government has taken up a program with the World Bank, which will be a performance-based dredging. That means round the year, that means the government, that means Inland Water Transport Authority has to ensure the draft is about 3.5 meter. That is the water draft. At the same time, the air draft is still the air draft I'm talking about, in line with Mr. Aloma, what he has said, that we are talking about the vessel, inland water container vessel, which should be around 186 TEUs to 200 TEUs. So if it is more than 200 TEUs, I believe that then you will have a problem with the air draft as well as the water draft. But still, it is feasible on that end. But on top of that, I say that if we can take, if the investor can take the advantage of the carbon credit, which is a great advantage, which we'll be getting from the World Bank and other development partner, there is a possibility. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your views. In view of timing, I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Hamidullah to share his views and maybe also providing a summary of the discussion today. Followed, I would like to give shortly the floor to each of the four panelists on some remaining remarks and their advice to Dutch companies which seek to do business in Bangladesh. So, Mr. Ambassador, would you be so kind to elaborate what you have heard from the panelists this morning?
Thank you. Thank you, Matthias. Listening to the presentation initially from Zahid, as also the continuing conversations in preparation to this webinar and the presentations from the four distinguished panelists. I was trying to jot down very pertinent points which have come. Perhaps the following could be some points or reflections worth taking note of as we wrap up. First is waterways transportation. Currently 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers around the year is navigable river waters. And after dredging, that's going to increase significantly, if not many times. So that's also a point that we need to take note. So one is that existing waterways, but also that waterways availability would increase. Inland riverine transportation will outpace or can outpace. It's said that it's a 1:9 ratio road and rail transportation cost, competitive, efficient, fast, smooth, seamless. Boats and vessel building design is another area. Conversation is though largely is focused at the moment on dredging. We have on the Dutch side, Damen, IHC. On the Bangladesh side, we have Western Marine, Mr. Saiful Islam is here, also a couple of others. But conversation needs to go beyond dredging. Mr. Islam said about 52 ships that they have built over the last 1 decade or so. But the range is important. Their capability in terms of making not only small vessels, but also mid-range, meaning 8 to 10,000 DWT and beyond. I should also underscore that there's another point which perhaps was pointed out by someone in the chat, is that financing for shipbuilding industry. That's another opportunity for the Dutch side. If they go without intermediary, that can be a possible fantastic win-win. And that's something we can take forward later. Because of which actually the shipbuilding industry in Bangladesh is largely constrained at the moment. On ship breaking, there was a point. I think the point is that how to make it sustainable, responsible, compliant. The word used was green, and I recognize there is a PHP shipyard, which is the only green shipyard, so to say, is also there, and they made the footprint in chat. There's also a reference, I think, Mr. Hoek, about refurbished riverine infrastructure that may be looked at later. Overall, shipbuilding technology, provisioning of parts, components, accessories, and innovation across the wider spectrum of shipbuilding industry holds promise for both sides. Again, another win-win. Opportunities also should go far beyond. For example, this traveled to me through a chat from someone who is listening elsewhere, That, for instance, our Bangladeshi traditional boats and vessels run on single-stroke diesel engines, whereas in Netherlands, these are run on CNG engines. This conversation has come long back. So conversion of engines and making the vessels spill-proof is another significant opportunity. There is also possibility for collaboration for the Dutch private operators in terms of training for merchant mariners and sailors that came from Mr. Alam. I think the point about carbon footprint trade-off is coming quite a number of times. Marine resource, meaning seafood and minerals, for example, is an opportunity to be tapped. Obviously, technology is the issue. Technology solutions, if those come from Netherlands, there's something for Bangladesh to take it forward. Both sides can also gainfully explore further how to engage in building range of ships, vessels, boats in Bangladesh with duct technology and design. I was in Rotterdam, so I'm convinced that even simple innovation, if those are made available, that can be put across hundreds, if not thousands of small boats and can bring significant changes. And also the point which is not coming is that let's not simply look at market within Bangladesh. The point I would say, connecting with Mr. Alam and also Mr. Saiful Islam and also Mr. Hoek, is that see, Matarbari and Paira Port is not simply to cater for Bangladesh. These are eventually to cater to much deeper hinterland. This is a point for every Dutch friend. Eventually, Bangladesh is becoming a seamless economic landscape where we would be reaching out through us or making ourselves available for Northeast India, Bhutan. Yesterday referred about the PTA with Bhutan and eventually with Nepal. And all the three sides are open and showing positive signals. So that way one would understand that the market is not simply confined to geographic territory of Bangladesh. Collaboration through knowledge and technology solutions, partnerships between the two sides can also go into deep sea fishing, near coastal fishing, fish processing technology and knowledge, good aquaculture practices scheme that also connects to yesterday's session, and inland fisheries. Inland fisheries, that was a small point yesterday. I'll bring it up here. We have, let's say, 100 indigenous varieties of fish. So point Mr. Alam was saying, look at salmon, look at hilsa, exact comparable, but the huge difference in terms of tapping. While a 1 kilo salmon fetches only €7, but its residual elements, meaning scales, bones, etc., fetch 22 kg per euro per kg. That is the kind of knowledge and innovation which holds promise. Aquaculture, it's not come here, but I'm connecting here because we are talking of larger maritime and water. Annually, Bangladesh gets over 4 million metric tons of fish. But at the moment, those who are in aquaculture, they're really worried because price is not picking up because there's a glut. In order to make the glut away for both white fish and the marine fish, Bangladesh can easily scale it up to 10 million metric tons. But then eventually to connect with the global supply chain, global market is the issue, where Netherlands can bring in all the logistics like exactly the way you do for flowers. In case of water, range of Dutch technology knowledge solutions would also hold promise in the following areas. For example, I'm just summarizing: water purification for urban households. 48% of Bangladesh population, 48% are going to live in cities or urban areas in next 10 years time, which only tells you what is the kind of promise. Safe quality water supply across municipalities. Small solutions from Netherlands can have a win-win. Industrial wastewater treatment. We not only have 100 economic zones, but also eventually there will be, all other industrial plants across the country will have to adopt effluent treatment plants because otherwise simply domestic consumption or production may be coming at stake. Improved waterproofing of design of gadgets and devices, standards that also will be coming into bigger demand. Overall, one would see that water use efficiency at household, manufacturing or industry level. Yesterday we heard from apparel, textile, jute, leather, paper, all the big industries. That will be issue. Rubana Haq very eminently reflected on that. So I'm again connecting here. And finally, Bangladesh Delta Plan. Point was made, Bangladesh Delta Plan is costed at $37 to $38 billion. But look at, if one looks at carefully, beyond simply constructing bridge, polder, or embankments or dredging, Bangladesh Delta Plan also brings sizable opportunity, spanning over a few $billion for all the Dutch small farms in Wageningen side or in the Rotterdam side, innovators I'm talking about bringing the small solution and having a huge outreach through our market. And it's not only one-off, it's going to be continuum. That's why it's called Delta Plan for 1 century. I should stop here. And what I should also underscore is that environmental protection and climate development of climate resilient solutions for every single economic activity along the water and maritime spectrum would also merit. I should, and also there's a small point which came about groundwater. So Matthews, once you are, these are the takeaways I would say from, I think as I could hear, following the chat and all that, the conversation that's been going. And once you're done, I'll have a final remarks at the close. Thank you.
Excellent, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for your extensive summary. I think you pinpoint a vast number of opportunities for collaborations between the Netherlands and Bangladesh. As such, I would like to shortly give the floor once more to each of the 4 panelists to give a very brief, let's say 1 minute remark on what you recommend for Dutch companies which consider to become active in Bangladesh but are not yet active there. Maybe starting with Erwin.
Yes, I think already also has been indicated, I think, by Albert as well. Most important to have a good, reliable local partner indeed to work with indeed, because we as a Dutch or European company cannot do it from our hometown as well indeed. We have to adapt to the local circumstances, and that's what we see. And secondly, you have to be, of course, patient and go with the flow regarding adopting their requirements. And that's also what we have done in our previous project which we have sold over there. And yeah, it's getting along indeed, and building your case, building your references, get confidence of the people in Bangladesh, because that's also takes a lot of time to take them to the next level indeed. Also, when you are competing against, let's say, companies which are already longer in the market as well indeed, which have built their references. So that's what we see every time back. Make sure that you move your steps and build your references and take from there, and don't expect that within a short notice you will build a huge business, at least for our wastewater treatment business.
Excellent. So preparations, partner, and patience. I think these are the key words.
Right.
Albert, you already mentioned a few things during your previous remarks, but maybe a few latest recommendations for Dutch companies?
Well, besides local partnership, I want to take it one step further. If you are in a project, let's say agri-food, and then you have logistics, you have the farmers, you have the grower, you have the distributors, you have to build a warehouse, a packing line, a sorting line. And that's, I would say, through local partnership, build consortium of Dutch and Bangladesh companies, sometimes the government involvement with some subsidies, and then a central coordinator. Company like Larif can do that, I know that from experience. So building consortiums to really move something forward to the next phase. I think that's a recommendation, especially when it comes to countries in Southeast Asia. That's the shortcut and the fastest way forward, where every expert can bring in his expertise and, let's say, combine the forces of two worlds. That's my final recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you, Albert. And also shortly to Mr. Alam, what would you like to say for Dutch companies consider to become active in Bangladesh?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I would say simply that whatever sector you would like to come in, Bangladesh would be open with its arms, you know, whether you call it fishing, whether you call it shipping, whether you call it a floating solar energy in the Bay of Bengal or ecotourism, which I could not have time to discuss, and also for the commercialization of the marine genetic resource project, which we have undertaken with the help of your funding by the government. We would be welcoming on all the sectors, including inland waters and everywhere. And that's remain a challenge for us to provide good opportunities to the Dutch investor. And I'm sure we'll be doing more than what we can do. Only thing I would request Dutch investor that you have to come to Bangladesh, which is not a very good destination sometime for visit and travel. But once you are here, then only you will know, that what we have and what we can offer and how mutually you have been helping us since long, for 50 years. And then we can go on for another 50 to 100 years with the Delta Plan. And hopefully both sides will be greatly benefited, especially Bangladesh would be in a greater position to feed its teeming millions with nutrition and also a standard of living, and also, free from hunger and everything else and the poverty we are undergoing. So thank you very much for all the Dutch investors, and we would welcome you to come back again to Bangladesh and invest in any of the sectors you would like to select. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alam, and we will take your invitation openly. We look forward to come back to Bangladesh next year. And finally, Mr. Islam, what would you like to say for Dutch companies considering to become active in Bangladesh?
Yeah, I would like to say that every black cloud has a silver lining. The silver lining is that the whole world is now thinking that whether they should be dependent on the supply source of a single country. That is going to be changed. I would like to convey the message to the Dutch entrepreneur that whether they can come to Bangladesh. And as the ambassador, Mr. Hamidullah, has said, that do not restrict Bangladesh within the territory of Bangladesh, but there are landlocked countries such as Bhutan, Nepal, and also the northeastern state of India. They are also landlocked. So these are the countries that where we can cater from Bangladesh the water and maritime services which we have. And at the same time, I would like to highlight one thing, that within this this South Asia, we have this SAARC, and under this SAARC, we have SAFTA, that is South Asia Free Trade Agreement between the 8 countries. That means we have the goods movement within these 8 countries where you can have the free trade agreement. These are the opportunities. At the same time, although if we graduate from LDC to middle income country, but the preferential trade agreement that what we get from EU, I believe that is to be continued. So still Bangladesh will be preferred, and we will have the market access to European countries. At the same time, the shipbuilding industry is going through the turbulence, and we would urge, if there is any potential investor down there, transfer of know-how and low cost of fund, if there is the equity partnership, and if there is anything, I believe that there is a good opportunity here in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Islam. Before I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hamidullah, I would like to thank you all for joining today on behalf of Larif and Light Council. And Mr. For you to close the event.
Yeah. Oops, what happened? Sorry. First of all, thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Matthias. This ends our the series of 3 webinars, not simply this particular one, which has really gone at some depth over the last 90 minutes or almost less than 90 minutes. So all the 4 distinguished panelists from the embassy from Bangladesh side, really sincere appreciation and gratitude to each of you. Let me have a few concluding remarks, in sense that there are a number of people who I must thank, not simply for this, and institutions, not simply for this particular webinar this morning here in Netherlands, but also afternoon in Dhaka. Matthias, Zahed, Farah, and a couple of other individuals. So my apologies if I have not been able to name you for making this happen. Our journey began, as I said, 7 to 8 months back. We simply didn't know that what it would be. And you all will be very happy and pleased to hear that yesterday, or by beginning of yesterday, we had over 500 registered participants, and these are all chosen select Bangladeshi ones, in particular from Bangladesh who joined. We tried to ensure that in order to really get eventually responsible, credible, and sustainable business collaboration, the individuals, the enterprises, the conglomerates who come, they really come with that kind of credential and worthiness. So in response to the points which have come, not simply this webinar and also previous webinars, let me assure you with no hesitation that we would certainly extend our hand in terms, or rather hold your hands in terms of ensuring that really sustainable partnerships are stitched this time round, beginning with this webinar. This webinar, for that matter, is simply not, or these all three webinars are not a matter of one-off event. These are beginning of a process which I underlined in the beginning. For me to register my appreciation, I must also mention the contributions which have come from RVO, FMO, NAFIC, POOM, not simply to register my appreciation to overall to the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ambassador Harry, Paula, Bas in the Embassy of Netherlands in Dhaka. They all have worked seamlessly from behind. Their names may not have appeared, but I must, in my, it behooves on me to mention them. Three things I'll leave with you. One is that those of you, those who are in participation, if you have time tomorrow, please join us. Dhaka time 5 o'clock, Netherlands time 12 noon for another fascinating piece of session, which is eventually launched the study which we got done through Lariv and the Light Castle to map the grounds of economic engagements between Bangladesh and Netherlands over the past 50 years. And not only mapping the ground, there are indications about possible collaboration or areas of collaboration or modalities of collaboration between the two sides. Again, completely premised on business and economic principles. That's where you would find a lot of things as food for future in the days ahead. And also what we are really mulling over is that how to carry forward the conversations, the lots of points, reflections which have appeared on the chat box, working with the panel, working with the participants in the next 1 to 2 years, so that we can take those to real fruition to our satisfaction, so that no one can really look back and say, oh, we had another seminar just like a conventional seminar. That's simply not our intention from the word go. So to all the registered participants and those who have really have remained with us, and I see as of this moment, there are 64 participants. To each and every one of you, thank you very much for bearing with us. With that, let me draw a close to not only this webinar, but also the series of webinars which we christened as Bangladesh Netherlands Investment Summit. Though virtual, I think it was more than in person. So once again, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye. Zahid.